Hey, welcome into a new episode of Kicking Off with me, Kevin Egan. And as promised, this is a show that will diversify within the beautiful game. We're not just going to talk to players about old matches that they played in. This is a show that will dive into different areas of the world and different industries with a connection to the game. And that's certainly the case today. We're speaking with a guy who started a team when he was only 16 years of age, now owns a football club that continues to climb and gain traction with a huge esports arm to the club and now a brand new women's team. He happens to have several million people following his every move on YouTube and all over social media. He's a good guy. Today, we're kicking off with Spencer Owen. Spencer, great to see you. How are you, bud?
Very well, thanks, mate. Very well. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, congratulations is in order. I still believe it's a congratulations time. You and Alex, you popped the question only a few months ago. You were nervous? I have to ask you about that because I saw the video. Millions of people saw the video. You choreographed it perfectly. You executed it well. Yet I go back to my proposal. There was no cameras on me, and I was nervous to say the least. How'd you do?
I was surprisingly nervous, actually. I mean, it feels like a couple months ago. It was actually 8 months ago now. The time has passed so quick because it feels like nothing's happened in the last 3 or 4 months with lockdown. But no, I was probably the most nervous I've been for anything, I reckon, or certainly for a long time. And even though I knew she was going to say yes. How say again?
Women don't realise that you plan on doing it once in your life, and Meg always says to me, "Why are you nervous? I don't get it. We're in a hotel room by ourselves. Like, I don't understand why you were nervous. Like, we're gonna do this once. Don't mess it up."
Exactly. You don't want to mess up their moment. She still gave me stick because of the fact, probably because of the fact that I was nervous. I kept it very simple.
Yeah.
And I basically just said the classic, like, "Will you marry me?" Like, we'd had all the discussions you needed, sort of. She knew it was coming at some point. I knew she was going to say yes, so I didn't feel the need to embellish it.
Yeah.
But she was like waiting for a speech. She was like, "Go on," but no, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Love it. I was talking to Meg actually before this interview, and I said, "Is there anything you'd like to know about Spencer?" Because Meg's a very private person, and she said just dealing with having your relationship out there in the open is a challenge in and of itself, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're too. There's some people that kind of share everything, some people that share like the whole lot, and I don't think we're quite that way inclined. Alex is like not come from this industry or anything like that. Like, she works with me and she has done for many years, but she never really had any ambition to be on camera or to create content, and she loves making our content, and she helps me massively behind the scenes in the stuff I do, like with the football club and stuff. But it helps, I think, that she's like really not very nonplussed about all that side of things. So we're not kind of chasing any goal when it comes to our content, especially more recently. The videos are really just stuff that we want to document. It's not like what's going to get the most views or what's going to, what's the best clickbait thumbnail we can do. It's really just the moments of our life we want to document. So there has been a few challenges, like people turn up at your house and like weird things. But there's people that have a lot worse.
Excuse me?
Yeah, we've had that quite a few times. It's pretty annoying. Depends who they are. Sometimes we had a guy who'd been catfished on Tinder, someone pretending to be Alex, used her pictures, got hold of our address, sent him to our house thinking he was going to get lucky. And Alex was at home on her own, in the middle of the night.
Scary.
And she's like, and the guy wouldn't go away because he was like adamant. The person on Tinder was like, "No, I'm inside. And, I ended up having to come back and scare him off basically. But like, you don't want to do that, right? Because even then, sometimes you don't know. I've had kids turn up and they're like, just fans, and you don't want to be rude. But at the same time, you're like, you have got to leave. It's not cool if people kept coming back. So
and you have that warm way about you on everything that you do. So naturally, everyone's going to think they're your friend, and that they have that open access because you're their friend. And I suppose the boundaries there that everybody needs to respect. Hey, I have massive admiration for everything you've done, Spencer. That's why I wanted to have you on the show and have a chat. And I wanted to go back to an earlier quote from many years ago that you said, "By the time I went to uni, I knew that a traditional education wasn't for me." Why did you think that?
Done your research, Kev. Well, I went to a couple of different grammar schools, and grammar school doesn't really mean anything in England. Like, it can mean it's a really good school. It can mean that it's not much. And schools I went to, particularly one at sixth form, were quite tough. Like the very high performing in terms of grades and stuff. I did pretty well at school in terms of grades, but only out of a sense of competition. Like, I'm a very competitive person, and it wasn't like I had any real goals academically, or I I just wanted to beat everyone in my class, or not even beat, actually. It's more a case of compete. So when I went to school, I went to a sixth form. It was very tough. So like most of school got all A's. Like very few people dropped a mark. And, you know, it was like, I didn't want to be embarrassed. And so I worked really hard, but it was like quite draining for someone that wasn't chasing to be a lawyer or a doctor or anything like this. Didn't want to go to Oxbridge or any of these universities personally, because I knew by the time I got to university age, I was sort of all about the extracurricular stuff. Like I certainly didn't have a career in football planned at that point, but I knew that I wanted to do things like I did university radio. I'd already done stuff like hospital radio before that. I was starting to try my hand at stand-up comedy, all these separate things that I knew university could offer me, but also I didn't want to go and have to grind crazy hours because I kind of was out. I kind of worked myself as far as I wanted to go, educationally speaking. I say that I still went to uni and still did a degree, but I don't think I pushed myself as far as I could have, deliberately. And it worked. I think it was the right thing to do.
Isn't that mental? Because most of the time, obviously, parents, anyone watching or listening would think, no, you go to school, you go to college, you figure out what you want to do, you get a safe job. And historically, there's no one more wrong than parents in the world in terms of what they want for their kids. And if you think about the industry you're in gaming and football, it's like you can imagine parents to young kids saying, turn it off. And now I see over here EMLS, the likes of Fiddle, you know, who's involved in a tournament that you'll be working on today and winning decent amounts of money and doing well for himself. And that industry obviously is thriving. Did you always have that entrepreneurial spirit about you as a kid?
Well, my dad's run his own businesses all my life. That's something he's even out of our house, you know, it's something I've always had in front of me. And I guess I've been subliminally, you know, influenced by that. Little things like there's some funny stories. Like when I was 12, loads of people used to do this, right? You know, people used to sell sweets and stuff at school. So I used to do that. I used to go to the shop and get them really cheap and sell them. But then what I did on level on top of that, even though I didn't actually understand it at all, and there's probably some people out there that I probably owe some money to as a result, like 12-year-olds. Basically, I would sell my sweets and that. I'd sell like whatever, a pack of crisps for £1 and they cost me 20p. And I'd make a little bit of money. But everyone knew I did it. Didn't make a lot of money. And then what I started to do is I went around the class once in physics and I said, look, you can buy shares in my company if you want. And I didn't really understand how shares worked. They were like, what do you mean? I was like, okay, so let's say I make 200 quid one week. I never made that much, but I was just saying I made 200 quid. If you get, I was so basic with maths share, selling shares for £1 a share. £1 a share gets you in. So I was like, right, if you buy 20% of my company now, you give me 20 quid. That means you get 20% of everything I make forever. So they're like, all right, so if you make 200 quid one week, 20% of that is 40 quid. So I'm going to double my money. I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer, boys. Yeah. So I end up making like 30, 40 quid in one class, which for a 12-year-old in like whatever it was, mid-90s or something.
Yeah,
early noughties. That's a lot of money. So I had like 30 quid in my pocket, feeling chuffed. And I probably already decided I was going to wrap up my sweet selling business. So next week in physics, and they're like, right, how's my dividends looking? I'm like, business is bad, lads. Sorry.
Have they knocked on your door lately? Have they?
They haven't, but that's like some Wolf of Wall Street stuff on a very small scale. But and then when I was 16, I did start my football team at 16. A lot of us, our teams ended because they do it at 16 sometimes. So I started an under-18s team, and I went to the council. I got a grant to help fund it, which was about only about 500 quid, but it makes a big difference.
At 16 years of age.
Yeah, and I think I was the youngest secretary in the history of the league because I was the secretary, and then. What was funny was, I told you I changed school at sixth form, right? So I changed school the day before sixth form started. It wasn't a deliberate choice. It was this opportunity that came up. So like a different story. Basically, I just rang them up and found out. But the main reason I went, right, I wasn't going to change. But I got invited to this induction day the day before school started. So I went and I told my dad this. I said, look, I'm going because there's a whole load of untapped people we can sign for our football team that we don't have yet because we needed like 4 or 5 more players. And I knew a few lads at this school. I was like, I'm going to go to induction day, get them to introduce me to a load of boys, sell them the dream of playing for our team. So I signed up a few guys on the day and I came home that day. And my plan was then to go back to my old school. But I had a good day, so I ended up just staying at the new school. But I only actually went to the induction day to sign players for a football team.
That's better than being in college. Those are life lessons that you took with you, you know, and to this day, obviously you're still recruiting players and hashtag continues to grow. In terms of running the football club, Spencer, give us an example of the day-to-day absolute stresses in your life, the worries in your life that we have no idea that exist because we see this fun-loving character on screen, but behind the screen, those day-to-day challenges are what?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, it's one of our actual plans for this year going ahead is we're going to start documenting them a little bit more. We just made a video about, you'll know, a player we had called #Harry, who's moved on to Fnatic, and we had a video trying to explain like the actual money side of these sort of deals, or the actual business side of that sort of esports side of it, because that's obviously another part of # is the esports side. So we're going to start covering that a bit more. What I would say is no day is the same. In the summer, you're obviously this summer's been crazy because of obviously the pandemic, but at the same time, we've also grown our club massively. So we've, in this last few months, gone from being a team with really one football team and a Sunday team, like a backup team. We've now got also our women's team who come with 3 teams. They've got the first team, which play in the 4th tier of women's football, which is pretty decent. Then they've got an under-23s team and a reserves team as well. But then we also did a merger with a youth team, which comes with 40 teams, which is like under 5s all the way up to under 18s, boys and girls. So it's massive, and that comes with a new facility and all these things. But for example, we have committee meetings that I'm now, # was really like, in terms of football, it was me, it was my brother, it was a guy called Neil Smythe who works on the sort of operations side of the business, and it was Devs, who's our first team manager. And now that committee is a lot bigger. We've got people from the women's team, we've got people from the youth team. So it's dealing with any challenges that throws up, all the kind of coaches, everyone that, there's a whole load of welfare issues with kids involved as well. Like, you've got to be aware of this, not kind of, stuff that you put in a YouTube video. It's going to be clickbaity, but it's still something that has to be done. And then obviously off season, you've got transfers, you've got players in esports. There's a bit more money involved in that because we actually have players that run wages, and, we have to make sure they're happy and they're getting what they need, or else they might look elsewhere. And yeah, I mean, the best way to describe it is kind of like real life Football Manager. And obviously at a lower level, but when the challenges happen in Football Manager, it's just part of the game. And I have to remind myself when they happen in real life, and you have like a bad day or something. I have to remind myself, like, if I wasn't doing this, and what would I be doing for fun right now? I'd be playing Football Manager, where I'd be doing this, a fake version of this. So I might as well enjoy the real version.
It's so true. Great perspective on that. It brings me back. What was that show called when we were kids on Sky? Linda Block. Do you remember that one?
What was that? What was it?
Oh, it was so good. It'll come to me. I'll tweet it out afterwards. It was basically like a Football Manager, but this made-up fantasy team played in the Premier League, and it was on
Dream Team.
Dream Team, of course.
Yeah, Manchester United. Yeah.
Manchester United, love it. Hey, obviously you want to go as far as you can with #. Take the team to the Premier League. Why not, right? There has to be a dream there somewhere. You look at the structure that is in America right now, and you've single entity in every major league, NFL, MLB, Major League Soccer. Is that a strange one for you? Like, how do you feel about something like that, given that you own a club that one day would have aspirations to continue to climb that ladder?
I've got a lot of respect for the way Americans do sport. I read a great book about 10 years ago called Stockonomics, which talks about, how it's a very capitalist country, but it's very socialist in terms of its sport and the way it works, and the way that, the worst team will get a better draft pick, et cetera, and salary caps and whatnot. I think the reason America's able to do that is because it's quite a closed system with regards to its sport. Like, apart from soccer, they're not world sports yet. So there isn't the risk of someone leaving the NFL to go to the French American Football League. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They can moderate it how they want. So we can't do that in football. But instead of the franchise model, like, for me, the Premier League is a franchise. It already is. I know it's not. It's got promotion and relegation, but let's face it, the Champions League is already looking at becoming a Master League, or whatever they want to call it. But it is look what happened with Newcastle just now. Right? Okay. Now there's a load of reasons for it, and there's a really good human rights issue as to why that the Saudi consortium shouldn't have been able to take that opportunity. But is that the reason they weren't allowed to? Have the Premier League suddenly really developed a conscience, or have they just been blocked because the old boys club didn't want another challenger? Man City did it 10 years ago, and I think they closed the door behind them on the way in.
You reckon?
They sort of said, no, we're it now. We're the status quo. And so, yeah, you can get promoted, but you can get promoted like Fulham did last year and spend 100 million and go down. So, yeah.
Aston Villa, we nearly went down after spending a record amount.
There you go. So a franchise is a bit more overt about it in America. They'll go, you know what? Cost you this much million, 100 million, whatever, to buy a spot in the league, and then you're in. We have a system where you can spend that and not stay in. Yeah. So, unfortunately, it's all too much about money for me. That's why I'm enjoying our non-league journey. There's still money involved at our level. There's still a lot of teams paying way too much. We're not one of them. But it's a lot more like the people of, not that this is essential, but, it's hurt England in the past probably having so many foreign players come in, and whilst they're better at the game, undoubtedly, it's hurt our growth internationally. So what I like about non-league, it's not just about there's less internationals, it's more about the people playing actually from the towns or the surrounding towns that you're playing with. You can talk to them, you get to know them a little better. There's real room for progression purely off a football level. You get a good manager and a good group of players, you can climb the levels real quick. That obviously is going to end at a certain point for us. You know, we're very capable of going up a few leagues, I think, but once we get anywhere near the National League, like the costs just multiply so much when you've got to travel for games, you've got to stay overnight and stuff.
You never know, bud. You never know.
No, it's definitely, I believe in the dream. I always sell the dream of us going in the Prem and whatnot. It's not going to happen without any external help, though. Yeah. We need some serious investment. Even the Salford City boys, class of 92, have all got a lot more money than I have. They still got Peter Lim involved.
Exactly.
You know, the guy who runs Valencia, who came in and put a lot of money in. And they knew if their ambition is to get to the Prem, they know it's going to cost them hundreds of millions of pounds. So,
how did you get Cesar Azpilicueta involved?
Yes, Cesar Azpilicueta is someone I met 4 years ago, maybe. He's involved in the FIFA scene. He's got a lot of passion for that side of things. And he came to one of the FIFA Interactive World Cups and just got introduced to him, started chatting to him. I think EA and FIFA have been quite proactive in trying to get footballers involved in the scene, whether that's through making their own teams, like Ruud Hullit's got one, Beckham's just announced an esports team, or whatever. And Cesar, hadn't got to know him and speak to him, he kind of came to me and said, look, there's a bit of talk about me starting an esports team. Like, I don't see why I'd start one when hashtag are the best team there is. Can't I get involved in yours? And I was like, sweet. So we talked about that. And, you know, and it appeals to his personality as a footballer, because obviously we've got the football side as well, which makes us quite unique in FIFA esports. So that he's been involved for a couple of years now behind the scenes.
Love it, Spencer. That's class. He's a class player. Seems like a top man as well. Brilliant captain for Chelsea. Hey, hashtag love to do your challenges on video, and they go viral, obviously. So we'll end today, because I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, with your favorite number, 6. That's the number you wear. So with 6 quick-fire questions to get to know you a little bit better, we'll start off. N64. Bringing back the youth. GoldenEye or Mario Kart?
What a question that is. I actually missed the whole term of school when I was 10. I had glandular fever, and I was in bed all day, every day for like 3 months. And during that time, my mum bought me an N64, and I basically just played those 2 games for 3 months.
Unreal, aren't they? Throw Wave Race in there as well. Do you remember Wave Race?
Yeah, Wave Race was good. I'd probably say Mario Kart, because I think it stood the test of time more. You know, there's been future iterations of it. I've played it on the Wii. I love Mario Kart. So I have to go Mario Kart.
I've got GoldenEye stuck in my head now, the tune. West Ham question. In their prime, Di Canio or Tevez?
In their prime, if you look at them as players, like if you take any kind of nostalgia out of it, Tevez reached higher levels for sure. You know, for Argentina, for Man United, for Man City, won Champions Leagues and things like this.
It's a tough one to take nostalgia out of, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Di Canio never really made an impact on the international scale, but for West Ham, in their prime, I say Di Canio, and he's still probably my favourite player in my lifetime because of the goals he scored. He's a bit of a controversial figure, but as a football man, you know, he's got a West Ham tattoo. I love it when people take the club to heart. So I'd say Di Canio. Yeah,
he brought that kind of continental flair, didn't he, when he arrived there? If you had to pick one player to take a penalty to save your life, who are you picking?
Have you seen the stats recently about people, the all-time penalty takers that have taken over like 30 or 40 penalties?
No.
So the best penalty taker, statistically speaking, is Robert Lewandowski. He scores 91% of his penalties, and that's based on like 50-plus penalties. It's a high number. You have to be in there. Guess who's second in the whole of the world? Mark Noble.
Kane?
Mark Noble.
Mark Noble?
Google it. 90.8%.
How many penalties has he taken?
Statistically better than Ronaldo, better than anyone else you could think of. Ronaldo's actually misses quite a few penalties, but anyone you think is a penalty expert, Noble's better unless it's Lewandowski. So obviously I'm going to go with Mark Noble.
Look, do you know Mark? You must know him yourself.
I've met him a few times. He lives quite near me, and I've been lucky to do a few interviews and stuff with him. I was at his testimonial. I was on the bench, actually. I didn't play, but I was like vlogging from the bench back at the bowling ground. So I wouldn't say I've got a personal relationship with him, but I've been lucky enough to do a few things with him, and he's a legend. He's a West Ham legend.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I just don't know if I'd want emotion involved. If it was for my life, I think I'm picking Sergio Ramos. Just go up there, be a boss. Panenka it if you want. Imagine how nervous you'd be. All right, Spencer. If you were born in 1978 as opposed to 1988, any guesses as to what you'd be doing right now?
Wow. It's a good question, because most of the stuff I do it wouldn't have existed if I was 10 years older. So I'd be like 41 now.
No
So I would,
YouTube, no YouTube when you were younger. I came out
I
in
think I would have
2012.
gone. Yeah, it's true, man. It's such a big part of what I'd done. Like, I think I'd probably have really tried to become a radio presenter. I think
Okay.
I would, because that's what I said, like the hospital radio, uni radio. When I stream and stuff now, it's basically the modern day radio. So I think I would, whether I'd ended up doing sport or whether I'd ended up doing something less sport based and more music stuff, I don't know. But I think, I mean, I would have loved to, whether I've made it or not, I don't know, but I would have loved to have been a radio presenter.
Yeah, you would have. What I love about you, though, is the fact that you've combined all these different areas of your career, but they all relate. They all correlate in some way. And I jumped into a venture a few years ago in tourism, and it was completely different. And I found myself having issues with the company while also trying to commentate in a match. And one time it was halftime in a match, and I looked at my phone, and I had about 90 text messages because of a building all these people were staying in. And I remember thinking, I can't do this. They need to have some sort of relationship.
Yeah.
Where I can try and handle everything at once.
I think that's important though. I think like from my perspective, it's easy to connect the dots back when someone gets somewhere or does something. You go, oh, it's been a plan from day one. Like, it wasn't that like, I've never planned this stuff. I've just like made what I think are good decisions when opportunities come up.
Yeah.
But also crucially with stuff like that, you have to give a shout out to not only Alex, my fiance, but also my brother Seb. Like, everything has got a lot more organized and a lot more vision involved in what we've been trying to do since Seb got on board and kind of started working behind the scenes as well. And he's got his own YouTube channel. He's a lot of great golf stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of the business side, like, he's vital to the running of everything we do. So yeah, I take a lot of the plaudit sometimes, but there's actually a team of people that make this all tick.
Yeah, big time. Well said, Seb. Really good on air as well. He also has a sweet left peg. Saw those penalties. If you were having a dinner party, right? This is a tough one. With Alex, and you could invite 3 couples, well-known couples around the world, who would you have at the dinner party and why?
I thought you were going to ask who you'd have as individuals, because I've answered that before, but I've never answered a couples one.
Couples are hard because you're always thinking about dynamics, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think now of big couples. So, I mean, if you're thinking like, because if you want, you know, the assuming they're different sexes, there could be a same-sex couple in there, but
yeah,
assuming that they're a man and a woman, you kind of want them both to bring something different, right? So like, always. I'm thinking at the moment, just based off controversy and like interest, I'd get Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith.
See, this is the thing. I was thinking the same thing. But what if they're a disaster? What if they're not speaking at the moment?
It's entertainment though, isn't it? It's entertainment.
I would have always had them at the table as well until recently. So now I'm thinking I would want the Obamas. I think the Obamas just have great stories to tell. Yeah. I would want, I was thinking, imagine Harry and Meghan, the stories you get out of them.
Yeah, no, yeah, I rate them, to be fair. You know, I don't consider myself a royalist. And I rate that they have sort of broken away.
Renegades.
Like, Meghan's getting loads of stick and stuff, and I think fair play to you. Like, you've probably given Harry some sort of life, you know.
I'd probably go for Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, for the simple reason that Chrissy Teigen is kind of nuts. So she'd bring a weird element to the whole dinner and she'd make you laugh. And then you'd sneak a piano in next to the table. And if a sing-song starts, John Legend's going to take off.
Yeah, that's true. There's a couple of them more close to home that aren't anywhere near as kind of world famous, but I think would be good banter, which is a good friend of mine, Ian Sterling, who's like the voice of Love Island. I don't know if that shows on
and Laura Whitmore.
So yeah, Laura Whitmore is really good, talented broadcaster in her own right as well. Ended up hosting Love Island as a side note. And then I think Wayne Bridge, the ex-Chelsea player, is married to a girl called Frankie Bridge, who used to be in a band called The Saturdays, who I've never met, but he's the exact same age as me. She went to a school near me and she's from really near me. So I think we'd get on. I feel like that would be it wouldn't be anywhere near as high profile, but I feel like it'd be good banter at the table. All
right, good stuff. And finally, don't go changing your motto. Usually it's behind you when you record videos. Why is that your motto?
I don't know if I've ever told this story before. It's not very glamorous, but basically when I was at uni, first summer of uni, I worked for a data cabling company for my mate Rich Beck's dad, who Rich Beck ended up playing for Hashtag. And I just would go and run internet cables, ironically running internet, and ended up working internet. But we'd go to like huge offices and stuff, and it's just like a manual labor job, really. Did that for like 3 months. And I got paired often. I was this junior sort of engineer, and I get paired with this guy called Simon Gray. You're listening, Simon? Haven't spoke to him in about 10 years, but he was this old sort of 40-year-old engineer, knew all the ropes, took me around, and I was this little young kid that had to, just do what he was told. And he would always say, he had 2 catchphrases. Whenever it was all him. I told him, and I started using it. I actually messaged him and said, mate, I've started using your thing and it's on my like badge and everything. He was like, oh, sweet. Every time I left the van at the end of the day, he eventually trained me. And I would say one thing and he would say the other, but he'd always say, don't go change it. And the other one would say, I'd say, see you when you're older. So I often finish my videos, I go, see you when you're older, don't go change it. And I always just thought it was quite cool. I was like, I like that, don't go changing. And then obviously, say again?
I was convinced we were going to get this big inspirational speech at the end of the show.
I didn't even know he'd got it from the Billy Joel song. I didn't even know anything about Billy Joel. 5 years later, I ended up becoming a massive Billy Joel fan off my own back. And then I realized, oh, don't go changing that song.
Yeah.
But then it's one of those things like KSI calls himself KSI and he says it's knowledge, strength, integrity. He's got it tattooed. He's called KSI because it was his name of his clan tag when he played Halo. That's why it's called KSI. But over the years, he realized it's actually something it means that I can get behind. And it was probably the same with me and don't go change it. But really, it was just a good outro. That's how it started.
Love it, man. That's absolutely brilliant. If I could go changing one thing, it's the fact that SpencerOwen.com is a funeral home. What's the deal with that?
Is it?
Yeah. SpencerOwen.com is a funeral home. First thing I did was go Spencer Owen, and it comes up funeral home. I'm like, come on, Spence.
Yeah. No, I mean, Spencer Owen's not even my real name. It's just a name. That's another thing that stuck. That's just the name that I used to use to stand up because I didn't like my surname because it sounds posh. Because I've got a double-barreled surname. I mean, it's Carmichael Brown, like my brother's.
It sounds really posh.
Sounds posh, and we're not posh at all. We come from working class background. In fact, the reason that it is probably what it is because my mum and dad made up that surname. I was born Spencer Brown. It's a whole different story, and they made up that surname basically to sound posher, I think. So then when I started doing stand-up, I was like, I don't want to be introduced to Spencer Carmichael Brown. They're gonna think I'm posh. So I couldn't do Spencer Brown because that was the name of another comedian. So I went with Spencer Owen, which is my middle name. So I got all my Twitter and stuff on that. And then it all started to take off and I was like, it's too late to change it now. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I just don't, it's all about hashtag. It's not about Spencer. Hashtag I've got a website. That's not a funeral home. Go to that website. You don't need to worry about me.
But your story is inspirational. Keep climbing. I love what you do. And it's been a pleasure having you on today. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure, Kev. Keep up your great work as well. It's some of the best questions I've ever answered, actually. I appreciate the research that's gone into it.
Love it, man. Love it. Best of luck with everything, Spencer. We'll chat to you soon. All the best, man.
Don't go changing.
So from selling sweets as a 12-year-old boy to setting up a football club at 16 and now running a fully functioning club with a men's and women's team and an esports arm at 31. Spencer has a busy life, so I really appreciated him taking the time to have that conversation, and I'd love to know what you guys took away from that chat. Maybe it's the dinner party. Maybe you'd like to contribute and comment underneath and let me know which 3 couples you'd have at a dinner party, or maybe it's Spencer's story itself. So love to hear from you. Tell your friends to click subscribe on Kicking Off with me, Kevin Egan, on both YouTube and podcasts, and we shall chat to you soon. Take care.